When it comes to adaptations, the Game of Thrones fandom has been through quite the gauntlet, and thankfully, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a great adaptation of the Hedge Knight, even going as far as making numerous good changes that betters the source material. So I thought it'd be fun to rank the 10 best changes made by Ira Parker. At number 10, we have the breaking up of the jousting into different segments. This change comes with an upside and a downside, which is primarily why I have it at number 10. To address the upside first, in the book, once the jousting starts, it's quite a long continuous sequence, taking up about 15% of the novella where our characters are purely spectating events unfolding in front of them. This isn't bad, but looking at it from a pacing perspective, this wouldn't translate that well to television, where if this was a one-to-one adaptation, almost an entire episode would be spent here. On the surface, this may seem like a positive, we get more action. However, a lot of the jousting doesn't move the plot forward. The only one that's mainly relevant is Aerion versus Sir Humphrey Harding, as that sets up Aerion as being a more prominent villain, it establishes a juxtaposition to honorable knights, and Sir Humphrey comes back for the trial of the Seven. Everything else we don't technically need to see, but the main downside here is this both removes Lyonel Baratheon having some fun screen time, where he laughs down his opponents, and the general depth of the tourney is lacking. Like, Dunk will have to challenge one of 5 people within these pavilions, and throughout the tourney for the book, Dunk is meticulously strategizing on who to pick, along with Egg helping him by keeping him informed and pointing out people's weaknesses. The show doesn't really do this, and if I were a betting man, I think they cut most of the jousting to save on budget, allowing them to funnel more of their resources into the Trial of the Seven as one of the main examples, which I think is a much better choice, as that's the ultimate climactic sequence of the season. So overall, I'd still classify this as a net good change, even with its downsides as the pace of the story flows a bit better. Number 9. Fleshing out minor characters. This specifically relates to Plumber, Rowan, technically Lyonel Baratheon, but he deserves his own section, and a handful of other knights. These are characters that either didn't exist or were briefly shown but were turned into proper characters for the show. Like, one of the best examples here is Plumber adding a moral dilemma for Dunk. He wants to give him a free victory, thus guaranteeing his future is secured, but just that notion of being untrue deeply unsettles Dunk. It adds another layer of conflict on an already dense sandwich of troubles that Dunk has to chew through. Ira Parker is compounding pressure onto Dunk through the season, and this is one of the more interesting ones as it challenges Dunk internally. Then, Rowan starting to care for Dunk's cause and becoming Raymun's wife was pretty cute, introducing a fun little dichotomy for the final episode, and gives Raymun more of a happy send-off. Don't worry, Raymun, my beloved, that's definitely your child. Her inclusion makes the common folk as a whole feel a bit more dense, and then at least introducing some other knights like Sir Robin Riesling makes them recognizable. While in the book, when Dunk was meeting his allies for the Trial of the Seven, he was kinda just like, "Who are you people?" So these little moments of setup go a long way to make the overall narrative feel more cohesive and developed. Number 8. Flashbacks. Or primarily the one main flashback in episode 5, because some of the other ones aren't really changes from the source material. In terms of us knowing about Dunk's past, we only briefly hear some stories from him. The main flashback in the show isn't a necessity for the story, and it does come at a rather awkward time, but I still think it's inherently pretty interesting to see all this. We really get to sympathize with Dunk and come to thoroughly understand the hardships he had to endure in Flea Bottom. We've never seen the dark and claustrophobic side of this city, and the brief times we did see it in Game of Thrones, it was still Dubrovnik, Croatia, but with more feces thrown in. This rendition of Flea Bottom is more accurate and captures the hellish experience that the common folk go through every day. So seeing Dunk and Rafe claw their way through here, and Dunk's utter determination in leaving with Sir Arlen, better connects you to his character. We now have a significantly better understanding of his troubled origin, outside of just saying, "I grew up in Flea Bottom," and we actually witness someone coming from rock bottom on the social hierarchy. The entire confrontation where Sir Arlen fights the corrupt Gold Cloaks and Rafe's death is insanely grim. This severely boosts the dramatic weight of Sir Arlen's first encounter with Dunk, and it has an interesting amount of depth. Sir Arlen saves Dunk because he's grieving the nephew/squire he lost in the Battle of the Red Grass Field, breaking down and saving this child from certain death. Then from there, Dunk establishes his persistence of following Sir Arlen even with an injured leg, and when he's approached and told to get up, and that tying back into the Trial of the Seven was a great point of transition that cohesively ties everything together. Number 7. Raymun Fossaway receiving more characterization. Like most things in this season, pretty much everything receives more development, and one of the major changes regarding Raymun is his ending. In the novella, his last appearance is during Baelor's death, and he doesn't receive much of a conclusion. The epilogue in the book is only 5 pages long. George pretty quickly wraps everything up, and Ira Parker identifies an opportunity to give this character a satisfying ending. He was a crucial supporting character. He always had Dunk's back, and he deserves more screen time so that he can have a proper send-off. It is in the form of Rowan manipulating him, but at least the man is happy, so we'll give him that. Then outside of his ending, he gets a lot more dialogue across all of his scenes. Some standout moments include his legendary Targaryen crash out.
The only honourable thing a Targaryen can do for this realm is finish on his wife's tits.
And there's plenty of new funny moments.
Harrion used to come into my bedchamber at night, put his knife in between my legs. Maybe one night he'd make me his sister, then he could marry me.
Raymun as a character is one of the only people who accepts Dunk. He doesn't outright shun him in a general culture that looks down on Hedge Knights. The show more effectively captures this with additions like Raymun helping Dunk find dinner in a place of community, and he shows him genuine compassion in the end. Raymun as a whole was made more lovable for the show and is a fully realized supporting character. Number 6. Dunk refusing Egg as a squire in the end. Narratively, I find this change more interesting because this kind of carries over Dunk's frustration and sense of betrayal from Egg deceiving him. That is something that could dissipate over time, but compounding that with so much added trauma of getting Baelor Targaryen killed will naturally drive Dunk to a conclusion of wanting to distance himself from princes. A part of him believes this is for the best. He wants to return to a simple life because he ruined everything. This makes a lot of sense for his character and is a natural avenue of internal conflict to explore. He only changes his mind because Darren opens up his viewpoint that Egg being his squire will be a much better upbringing for him. And this as well is a new scene. Darren here is shown to care for his brother, so going out of his way and talking Dunk into accepting Egg was very heartwarming, further playing with the complex themes of madness in the House of the Dragon. Is this something that's nature or nurture? Is this able to be subverted with compassion? This all gives this plot point more depth and evolution for Dunk, changing his mind, making them coming together in the end way more satisfying because they were so close to splitting apart. Number 5. Dunk not being a knight. Okay, so a lot of people pointed out in my last video that the book at some points alludes to Dunk being a fraud. Now, while the book treats most of that with more ambiguity and different interpretations, the main change for the show comes in the form of Ira Parker making this aspect of Dunk's past more apparent. We have a full flashback that directly addresses this, and Dunk even calls himself a fraud after Lyonel Baratheon says that about Baelor. Not to mention the plethora of other moments that outright question his validity of being a knight. On the flip side, you can also, on a technicality, argue that Arlen knighted Dunk after their flashback scene, but being so close to death and refusing to address the subject showcases an underlying doubt coming from Arlen. His reasoning for why he's not knighting Dunk is the main mystery to me. So the reason why I think making this change more definitive betters the material is that it puts a spotlight on the dark complexity of knighthood. Being a true knight doesn't come from the technicality of having the title, but from your actions and character. So few knights are actually chivalrous to the point that it completely waters down the reputation of knights. Everyone acts like it's glorious and glamorous while ignoring the underlying issues. It's almost all an act. So this change putting a larger emphasis on the irony of Dunk being the truest knight while not being one is deliciously fascinating. Number 4. The Trial of the Seven extension. I've brought this up in my past videos, but 90% of the Trial of the Seven is original material. It ends very quickly in the book where, after getting up from being knocked off his horse, Dunk hastily overwhelms Arryn with his strength and tackles him into the mud, playing out similarly for how it ends in the show. Everything else is new, making it to where this is a riveting action scene with great swordplay, authentic usage of armor, and this long sustained battle massively emphasizes Dunk's agonizing character struggle. You're way more invested in Dunk's journey, and it's wholly gripping from start to finish. Making this fight significantly longer also makes this a more satisfying and exciting climax. Like, ironically, I saw the initial reaction from some viewers wanting the sequence to be even longer, like with following different perspectives, but I think it's way more effective in staying with Dunk the entire time. Then, plot-wise, Ira Parker adds an entire moment of Dunk falling and possibly briefly dying. This adds more ambiguity in the sense that the gods could be intervening by imbuing him with the strength to rise and best Arryn. And this acts as a major rousing moment for everyone in the scene and us, the audience. So expanding the Trial of the Seven wasn't just better in a spectacle sense, but also narratively it packs a much stronger punch. Number 3. Lyonel Baratheon's characterization. You probably thought I'd put this at number 1, and most people probably would because this is one of the biggest changes from the novella. Lyonel Baratheon didn't even qualify as a side character in the book. He just shows up for vibes during the Trial of the Seven.
I just saw the ad.
The show instead takes a likable character that we only knew from afar and creates a fully fleshed out, crazy, unique, and mad individual. When we want a character to be like Jack Sparrow, this is what we want, and not whatever the fuck Euron Greyjoy was. But outside of Lyonel Baratheon's fun, infectious exuberance, he also connects with Dunk on a personal level. They become close friends, and their entire long scene together in episode 1 was the beginning sign of this being a well thought out adaptation. Lyonel gravitates towards Dunk's shyest nature. He's like a sore thumb sticking out amongst all of these characters. Deep down, I feel like Lyonel discovers a true, authentic knight that he connects with and further befriends Dunk in other fun scenes, like their tug-of-war match. This now makes Lyonel's inclusion in the Trial of the Seven have much more significance and personal depth. We're excited to see a friend come to Dunk's aid. Then their entire ending scene as well is unexpectedly emotional and their minor falling out. There's also a bit of nuance surrounding his sexuality and the way he acts around Dunk that kind of gives this relationship even more layers. But yeah, Lyonel Baratheon as a whole is just an S-tier character. Number 2. More time with Dunk and Egg. Lyonel Baratheon was a big change, but Dunk and Egg receive way more screen time. I even reread the Hedge Knight prior to this video and was kind of taken aback, realizing that Dunk and Egg really don't spend that much time together. Besides the focus on the tourney, the story is quite plot-focused. It doesn't take its time like the show does, where Ira Parker thoroughly builds the bond between these two characters. This of course is the best aspect of the entire story, so giving it even more love and attention is going to make the duo of Dunk and Egg thrive. Like, the vast majority of their interactions in episodes 2 and 3 are entirely new material. Some of their moments here are even the best, like Egg's iconic meme reaction to expecting Dunk to elaborate on him saying people used to call him dumb, and then he doesn't follow that up with anything. This additional screen time allows Dunk and Egg to more authentically grow closer together. Dunk teaches Egg how to sew patches, they're interacting with the market and common folk more, and they're vibing and eating meals together. George simply didn't really have enough time to do this, and I utterly cherish these moments in the show, creating a wonderful atmosphere that you wish you can sink into like a hot bath. Their time together is by no means filler, and all these additions strengthen their relationship, making the climax and ending hit that much harder. Number 1. Egg's Dark Temptation. This is actually one of my favorite scenes from the show, featuring brilliant reserved writing, and the best aspect about this edition is that Egg gets a major dramatic moment, giving his character way more depth and a more complete arc. For the novella, we don't get a lot of internality with Egg. We primarily interact with him through the perspective of Dunk, and their ending is more short and sweet. The show, however, gives Egg such a dark, deep, and complex character moment. And first setting this up, Ira Parker starts to play with the idea of where madness originates and can it be subverted. He specifically raises this in the Darren scene, and says that Arian used to be a happy child and loved fishing. Then after this, we cut to Egg glumly sitting in his room with a knife sticking out of an unappetizing fish. Basically a clear metaphor that Egg is on the brink of falling into despair. He then makes an attempt on killing Arian, kinslaying, the biggest and most detrimental act in Westeros, attributing all of his strife in his life to being his fault. But his father is luckily present, realizing here that the solution isn't punishment and instead it's love. It's such a warm moment that has so much nuance given that it's completely dialogue-free, carried especially and punctuated excellently by the great acting. Dexter is just a captivating child actor, and I really hope he pulls some award nominations here. So this overall moment greatly surprised me because it showcases a moment of great reserved writing in a show that's otherwise known for its fun, upbeat, and humorous tone. The narrative has more versatility, and Ira Parker can hit you in the gut with some deep, engaging moments. Those are how I'd rank my 10 favorite changes, and there are other minor ones that are worth discussing. Also, my top 3 could honestly be shuffled in a different order. They're just that close in terms of quality. Thank you for watching. My Letterboxd, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description, and have a great day. As always, thanks to the truest patron, Logan Farmer.